Live from the Score Atlanta television studios in North Atlanta, this is Georgia High School Sports Daily, powered by IBEW Local 613.
All right, IJ Rosenberg here at the Georgia High School Sports Daily on Peachtree Sports TV. Craig Sager to my left. We also have Najee Wilkins on Zoom. How you doing? Did you have a good weekend?
Yes, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, the Hall of Fame event went really well Saturday.
I had a great time. I had the privilege of hanging out with Hudson Mason the entire time, and it was great to see him in. I thought he deserved to be on that initial ballot. It took him 3 years, but then he ends up being one of the highest vote getters this year, and I feel like people were really able to look at his high school career and see what we're doing with the Hall of Fame, where it's not necessarily if you go to the NFL. It's based on were you a trailblazer, how good were you in high school, and so I was just excited for him.
Yeah, we'll talk a lot about the Hall of Fame, but we have to go to our statewide selections. It looks like, Craig, you were 6-2 this week.
Yeah.
Both Najee and myself 5-3. What was the difference? What was the one game that you picked?
The one that I went back and forth with the most that ended up being the difference was the Benedictine and Perry. And obviously Perry won the state title last year. Benedictine won the year before. Benedictine's a really hard place to play, but they have their backup quarterback in, so they were coming off a big win over Ware County. But with Perry, they're so physical with the run game. They've got a two-headed attack, and the way they won that game was really interesting. Benedictine didn't score in the second half. They had a pick six, and then once Benedictine took a 24-21 lead, Perry returned the kickoff for a touchdown. So They won on special teams plays.
Well, and the other game, was the Fellowship Christian Wesleyan game. That was a little bit of a surprise.
Yes, it was. C.J. Givers, I thought he would be able to win in the contrast of styles. Fellowship, a running team, Wesleyan, a passing team, they just couldn't stop him. And in the second half, he went wild. Definitely surpassed 300 yards. So that's a tough game for Wesleyan, and kind of exposes their defense that they're very vulnerable to the run.
Well, we'll bring in Najee Wilkins here, but also wanted to tell everybody that we are obviously available here on Peachtree Sports TV. And, we've got our game this week. It'll be Hebron Christian that will be hosting. They'll be hosting, who we got? Oh, gosh. Prince Avenue Christian. I've got so many different teams and names in my mind. It's been kind of tough. But that's going to be a big game this weekend. That'll be for the region title. We'll be up at Hebron. Of course, we were at Hebron Christian earlier this year for the Corky Kell Classic. They're very excited about us. And really, this is next to the last week, Craig. Let's bring Najee in here for a second. This is next to the last week for the regular season. Of course, This was supposed to be the last week of the regular season, but they pushed everything back a week. And, Najee, it's going to be interesting next week because there's games, but there's some games on Friday. There's some games on Saturday. I think there's probably around 25 or 30 games. Do you have a better idea of the number next Friday?
I'm not sure. I have to go a little bit more detail to see how many it is, but I think you're right on the head when you said that 25 number. But the interesting thing is going to be these big-time region championships this upcoming Friday. Who's going to win? And those teams like Grayson, who hasn't played in a long time, but this past Friday, how do they continue to look playing 3 games in 8 days?
Yeah.
How will they look going forward and things like that?
All right, we're going to go to our fast break headlines. Najee, you've got the first one, 4-star wide receiver. It's a big story right here. C.J. Wiley has decommitted from Florida State.
Yeah, it's huge news. I was there at his commitment when he officially made it official for Florida State. But what kind of stood out to me when I did the story and I talked to him was that he said his recruiting was still open. Usually when a kid commits, they usually shut it down. They're not really doing too much. But when he says, hey, you can still recruit me, I'm still open, I feel like that door was still there. And as we can see, that door is open. Florida State is struggling this year. They're 1-6, right? And then Georgia has that big win a few weeks ago against Texas. He's also been on campus. So that's something to watch. Georgia really wants him. I know they're going to push hard for him to bring him in. He'd be a great prototype for the program. LSU is still in that conversation. He would come in along with a Bryce Underwood and a Harlan Berry. The last team to watch that nobody's talking about is Texas A&M. That's going to be a team to watch for him. They just landed 2 major recruits from Douglas County, Jordan Carter and Aaron Gregory. They're going to try to push for him as well. That's going to be a team to watch for as a dark horse candidate to land Wiley. Texas A&M.
Now, real
not-
quick, I have a
I'm sorry,
question
go on.
about this. Is it just me, or has Florida State had more flips than some of these other teams? I know that's a trend we've seen all year, whether it's Justice Terry, but it seems like a lot of these Florida State commits are flipping.
Yes, that's 100% true, Craig. Yeah, they are. I mean, and I think that has to kind of do with what's going on the field. They're struggling and not playing at a high level. They're going to be more flips as well, from what I'm hearing through sources.
And Najee, let me ask you one other thing about this. This hasn't been an easy year for CJ. Of course, he lost his quarterback. I think his quarterback before the season went over to Douglas County. Alpharetta has really, really struggled. I think that they've won one game this year, I think, if that much. I don't even know if they've won a game this year, but I've got to imagine this has not been the year that's the senior year that C.G. Wiley was thinking about. Our headline number 2, we talked a little bit about the Georgia High School Football Hall of Fame Saturday night at the College Football Hall of Fame. It was really a great evening. One thing that I really like, Craig, is afterwards. When the players are hanging around and giving autographs and taking photos. I thought David Green, I think he was probably the last to leave. Of course, the quarterback from South Gwinnett went on, had a great career at the University of Georgia, one of the winningest quarterbacks in SEC history. But it was just a lot of fun. I mean, just watching him, his family was huge. In fact, maybe by the end of the show, there he is right there. There's a great picture of his entire family there. I think he brought like 20 people. That's Tim Scott from the GHSA and Rusty Mansell from On 3 putting David's jacket on. But it was really cool. We're going to sort of dedicate our last segment today to highlights and different photos that we have from what was going on. All right, so you've got headline number 3, and that's the 2-win Mary Persons. Huge upset here. Previously beat unbeaten Sandy Creek.
Yeah, Najee, you want to take
Yeah,
this
huge
on?
win,
Sorry,
obviously,
Najee,
for
my
Sandy
fault.
Creek. Huge win for Mary Persons. They beat Sandy Creek. They struggled a little bit in that one, but nonetheless, they came back from 7-0. Mari Latimer had the initial touchdown, and then they went on a kind of a scoring run there. They led 27-13. They forced a 4-and-out. Sandy Creek got desperate towards the end of the game, and they led at one point 34-13. Nelson's touchdown pass, Mac Nelson's 29-yard touchdown pass to Caden Lavinka was critical in that one, and they were able to cut the deficit a little bit, but it was too insurmountable for Sandy Creek to come back. So a big loss for them. It's going to affect them in the power rankings, but nonetheless, they are still going to be region champions, but a big loss for them going forward.
All right, headline 4, Perry's big win over Benedictine. That is their 4th region title in the last 5 years. Actually, last year was interesting. The one year they didn't win it, that was when Spalding was able to take it from them. They had an injury to their quarterback right before the playoffs, ended up making that run to the first ever state title. In this game, though, a player I want to highlight, DeCorian Daniels. What a performance he had. He put the Panthers up 7-0 with a 6-yard touchdown. And then when Benedictine took that 24-20 lead, he had the ensuing kickoff return, 90 yards for a touchdown. So 2 very clutch plays for them. It's a huge win for Perry, and I thought that region was probably the most talented in all of 4A. You got Ware County, Warner Robins, Benedictine, Wayne County. And for Perry to come in with a lot of new pieces, I just think Coach Kevin Smith, what he's done at Perry in Middle Georgia, that is one of the most impressive coaching jobs we've seen. And going on the road, beating Benedictine, they're peaking at the right time. And I think it's being rewarded in the rankings this week.
And you got number 5?
All right, Hebron Christian Volleyball advances to the state finals. This was one of the many matches on Saturday. They defeated their rival Lovett 25-21, 25-18. They lost the third set 25-18 and then took the fourth 25-17 in the Final Four at Westminster, earning a spot in the November 2nd state finals against Mount Pisgah, who won in 5 sets over Mount Perrin. Hebron and Mount Pisgah have not played this season. Hebron, which also won state titles in 2015 and 2019, lost their first set in the state playoffs after blanking Southwest Atlanta Christian, Wesleyan, and Holy Innocents.
All right, and our last headline, Lambert's Cam Bland ran wild in a 5-touchdown performance in a win Friday night over Denmark. Bland accounted for 5 touchdowns to lead the visiting Longhorns. He rushed for touchdowns of 12, 34, 26, and also hauled in touchdown passes of 16 and 18 from quarterback Ethan Daugherty. Bland had rushed for 366 yards and 6 touchdowns per Max Preps. Lambert is 6-3 and 5-1 in region play and have clinched the number 2 seed in region or Class 6 Region 6A. And Najee, let's bring Najee back on here. I did want to talk about how badly the loss to Mary Persons could hurt Sandy Creek. Not only were they ranked number 1 in 3A,
right?
Okay, but now they're in an interesting situation because in Region 2, Sandy Creek and LaGrange go into this final week of the season, both at 6-1. Okay, now Sandy Creek beat LaGrange earlier this year, but they've got to play Troop. Okay, so if Sandy Creek, Troop's a pretty good football team, 4-3 in the region, 5-4. So if Troop beats Sandy Creek and LaGrange beats Upson Lee, which also should be a pretty good football game, that's a big switch over in 2 weeks where LaGrange would end up being number 1 in the region.
Yeah, well, I'm so impressed with what LaGrange is doing. The other thing to keep in mind is Class 3A is going to be based on this power rating system. So even though they have the number 1 seed, potentially it could impact them losing to a Mary Persons team that did not have a good record.
All right, we've got a good little quick interview here. It's about Lambert's Cam Land that ran for 5 touchdown performances. Sports editor Nicholas Sullivan from the Forsyth County News talked to Cam after his performance.
We knew we was at stake. It was a big game for pretty much deciding our playoff seeding. So we knew we was at stake. We just had to go out and dominate, just do our jobs from the start to the finish. And big shout out to the O-line for creating the gaps and just letting me do what I do best. So can't be more grateful for them.
Now wait a second. I was out in Decatur. I mean, it must have been a lot chillier where he was at because he was all wrapped up like it was 40 degrees. You know, we had no problems with the weather at Decatur. But congratulations to Cam, who had just a tremendous performance Friday night. Lot to do today. Like I said, you can watch his show Monday through Friday from noon till 1 o'clock on the Peachtree Sports Network. You can also pick it up on the Atlanta News First app. We'll be right back.
Great teams are committed, focused on the details, and work hard to be their best. From practice to games, right down to their gear. Your field is a critical part of the game that allows your athletes to showcase their athletic abilities. Sports Turf is committed to bringing your team innovative sports surfaces with unparalleled performance. You bring the vision. Our team brings it to life.
The Georgia Sheet Metal JETC equips apprentices with the knowledge and skills required to start a rewarding career in the sheet metal industry with programs in HVAC, industrial welding, and testing, adjusting, and balancing. Training is 100% free and allows apprentices to earn as they learn. Journeymen graduate with no student debt and have the potential to earn more than most college graduates. Visit our website to learn more about this opportunity at careersinsheetmetal.com.
This makes my dad proud. He went through his whole career as an employee. Now I'm the employer, something he didn't achieve.
We are signatory to IBEW and do IBEW people wherever we go that we feel like they are faster and better than any of our competition.
The advantages of being a signatory contractor is you're trained employees. You have unlimited manpower. It allows me to bid on jobs that I ordinarily would not go after.
Man, you know how to do this? Man, I don't even know. I was flipping burgers last week.
Violation, unsportsmanlike conduct, impersonating a craftsman.
Skilled trade unions are well-trained career pros, not part-timers. Construction is a rewarding and lucrative career with advancement potential, but you have to do it the right way with the right training. Learn how you can be a pro. Find your career at GeorgiaConstructionCareers.com.
Georgia High School Sports Daily is brought to you by the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local 613. Electrify your career.
All right, welcome back to the Georgia High School Sports Daily here on the Peachtree Sports Network. Like I said, you can pick us up on the Atlanta News First app. You can also pick us up on the CBS streaming portal, which is Zeam, Z-E-A-M, and of course every day on the National Federation High School Network. And every night we have an encore presentation of our show at 11 o'clock on the Peachtree Sports Network. All right, let's go to the rankings real quickly. We've got the 6A rankings, not a tremendous amount of changes in here. Carrollton still on top, but we've got the huge region matchup this week, Craig, between Carrollton and Douglas County.
Yeah, what I like about this, there's a lot on the line, obviously, winning the region title. So this isn't a game where they're going to be preparing for the playoffs. Both teams are going to want it, and Douglas County is going to want this big win to prove that they can top pretty much the state title favorite in 6A right now. Collins Hill had another big win. Grayson was finally back in action. And then you see Lowndes debuting for the first time. Their huge win over Richmond Hill this week. It's going to be Lowndes versus Valdosta, the Wintersville Classic for the region title this week. Should be a heck of a game.
All right, let's bring in Najee real quick for these. Hey, Najee, right now, what do you think about the 6A rankings? I mean, who do you sort of see the team or teams to beat?
I know they're number 10 on Craig's rankings, but I still think a team to beat is going to be Valdosta at 10. I think they're going to make some noise this postseason. I think they've taken their lumps. And with Todd Robinson back healthy and whole, I think they're going to make some noise. And the other team is Grayson. Do not sleep on the Rams. Tyler Atkinson had 7 tackles for loss in that win against South Gwinnett. I know they haven't played. They have a really good roster. They can run the football with Elijah Miller. They can throw it with Travis Burgess. And they have elite playmakers on the outside. Those would be my 2 teams.
That's a great point. Well, just defensively with Grayson, they shut down a South Gwinnett team that put up like 500 yards the previous week. But also Valdosta, you're right about defensively. They have Todd Robinson on offense. They can get going. They run that fast tempo. But if you look at some of their big wins and key matchups, they are able to hold teams to single digits. Not a lot of teams in Region 1 can do that. Lowndes also has a great defense, but that's kind of why Camden County's fallen off. They're great offensively, but the defense is where they
and we'll talk more about Lowndes and Valdosta because they play for the region. Yep. Well, they'll be involved in the region title on Friday night. All right, let's drop down to 5A. All right, Najee.
Yeah, so here, obviously, Milton leads at number 1, 2 Lee County. Hughes, I still like them. They had another stellar performance. Thomas County Central outlasted Houston County. Coffee looks like a really good team. I like them as well. They've been playing really good football. Roswell, a thriller against Gainesville. 2 really good teams. Kareem Hughes throws 6 touchdowns in that one, over 400 yards. 2 great teams, I think. And then Rome, I moved them up as well. Decatur, I moved down a spot, and 10 Houston County. So the reason I have not ranked Woodward Academy just yet is the level of competition. You look early in the season, Woodward Academy was challenged, right? Carrollton, Marist, Collins Hill. You look at the region schedule, not so much. The toughest matchup was against Decatur for the region title last week, which they outperformed. I'm not gonna lie, they looked good. But when I look at Houston County, they played Warner Robins, Thomas County Central, Perry, and they've also played Coffee. Like, those are tough teams. So I feel like Houston County is going to be a little bit more equipped when postseason comes to make a deeper run.
Well, let me ask you this. With Woodward Academy, and I was there, and it was a good football game. I mean, Woodward, I'll tell you what, Woodward has a couple of really good players that really stood out Friday night at Decatur. Question, why didn't you switch Woodward into Decatur's? I know you talked about competition early in the season and stuff like that, but I know the Woodward Academy people that are watching this show are going to want to know why they're not at number 1 and Decatur is.
I feel like that was maybe the first time Decatur's been on the big stage. I feel like that probably wasn't the best matchup for them. They did beat them handily, or, you know what I'm saying, in that game 42-14. But I felt like Decatur has shown us throughout the season that they've been a great team. Not that Woodward hasn't. Woodward has as well. But I just gave the edge to Decatur because I felt like that was the first time in that big stage and moment.
All right, well, I'll tell you what. I'm going to give the Woodward's coaches your number because he's already called me this morning. All right, let's go down to 4A. Craig?
All right, in 4A, North Laconia had another huge win. You got Cartersville. They actually survived a thriller with Hiram. They were on the ropes. They had to kick a last-second field goal, and so that was enough for me to put BT ahead of them at number 3. I just think defensively, what BT did this past week against Centennial, they are very tough. I think they could beat Cartersville in heads-to-head. That's why I put the Titans up there. Obviously, the Titans also beat both the teams that we're going to feature this week with Prince Avenue Christian and Hebron. Starsville moved up, and then I put Kell back in there. With Mooney Gibson in the backfield, Kell has been so dangerous. They haven't really lost when he's healthy. He has 10 touchdowns the last 2 weeks, and they had a huge win over Cambridge, serving them their first loss of the season. So Kell replaces Cambridge at number 10.
And I think, BT and Cambridge play Friday night.
Yep.
And that'll be for the region title. And that might end up being a pretty good game, Craig.
Absolutely. The thing that should worry Cambridge, so Kell held Cambridge to minus 25 rushing yards in that game, completely shut them down. So Tyler Jones is a great offensive mind, but there were things Kell did defensively to completely throw them off their game. BT is probably an even more sound defense, so that's going to be a really tough matchup. BT should handle business. And then another team that continues rolling is Creekside. They played a great Maynard Jackson team this last week, probably their toughest region opponent, completely demolished them. I think Creekside, I mean, they've
Well, you know, the thing about, and here's the difference about Creekside. They've got the experience. They've been to the big dance, so they know how to play. So it'll be interesting to see once the playoffs come up how they do. Let's jump down to 3A.
All right, and for 3A, obviously Peach County is the head team there. You know, they got another big win, beat Cairo pretty handily, so I had to rank number 1. Jefferson continues to roll. Had to move them up. They beat a top 10 team in Cherokee Bluff, and that's why I took them in that contest, because I wanted to see Cherokee Bluff do it against a pretty good opponent. It came up a little bit short. Jefferson looked good. Gavin Markin over 200 yards rushing. Sandy Creek, I didn't move them down too much. I know they lost to Mary Persons. Mary Persons still has a decent team. They lost those wins, and it has a lot of losses because of the transfer. Like that hurt them a lot this year. So I still think Sandy Creek is still a contender. That's why I keep them as a top 3 team. LaGrange rounding tail at number 5. Westover having a good year. Douglas Atlanta with their athletes continue to perform at a high level. And I really like Calhoun and Trace Hawkins, the freshman, had another stellar performance, 3 touchdown passes. Northwest Whitfields looked good as well. And then Long County had another loss. They're trending on the way down, but we'll see what happens towards the last week of the season.
And I want to thank LaGrange because their entire their entire team basically came to the Hall of Fame Saturday night. They're a well-behaved group of kids. We'll talk a little bit more about what we did with LaGrange and who they were representing, but just a good-looking group of kids. Let's go down to 2A.
2A, I did not change a single thing this week. Thompson continues to look really well. They had a similar start to some of these other teams that played tough out of region, but within Class 2A, I don't think they've lost the entire season. Rockmart, same sort of deal. They started off really young. They're dominating the region, had a big win over North Cobb Christian earlier in that region. Carver Columbus is a team that I'm going to continue to say, if you look at what they've done this season, they probably have an argument to be number 1 or even number 2, but Pierce County is going to get it just because they're the 2-time defending state champs, and until someone's able to stop Kaden McGath at quarterback, they're going to get number 1. But no changes this week for the first time in quite some time.
Yeah, real quick, let's go back to 3A for 1 second. Can we go back to 3A? So, Doug, yeah, I'm sorry. I just wanted to make sure Douglas Atlanta was in there. All right, let's go to 1A. Division, we've got 1A Division 1. We've got Toombs County up top with Dublin behind. Najee?
All right, so here, obviously, the big result is Northeast defeating Dodge County 40-19. They handed them their first loss of the season. Nicholas Wolfer had 3 touchdowns in that one, so I moved them up to number 4, jumped them past, obviously, Dodge County. Thomasville also moved up, even though they had an idle week this past week. Fitzgerald held Bacon County to only 3 points in a very convincing win. They're one to keep your eye on. Commerce continues to move up in the rankings. They beat Banks County 27-10. Another good outing for them. And Lamar County was held to a season-low 7 points against Social Circle, so I moved them down. And Raven County, I'm still keeping them ranked. Played a really good Athens Academy team. Competed, lost. They could play against stellar competition and compete.
All right, let's go down to Division 2. We got the Division 2 rankings.
All right, so here, not too many more changes. IJ, number 1, number 2. Manchester wins another region title. Bowden picked up a 51-point victory against Greenville. Greene County defeated Lincoln County Academy. They moved up a spot. Lincoln County shut out Warren County, so a good win for them as well. Brooks County is going to play for a region championship next week after a 49-8 win over Charleston County, so that's going to be one to watch for. Clinch County had to do all they could against a really good Turner County team that bowed them. 52-43 victory for them. Aaron Bryant had another stellar performance. We had him on the show last week. And then Irwin County defeated Lanier County 41-14. Those are kind of the major results.
All right, let's quickly go down to our private school rankings, 1A through 3A. Correct?
I love it. They got creamed by Carver Atlanta. They moved them down to number 10. Whitfield Academy comes back into the rankings at number 9, and GAC is out.
And, of course, we've got this big matchup between Hebron and Prince Avenue Christian coming up on Peachtree TV. We'll have for you at 8 o'clock on Friday night. Real quick, I just want to correct myself. I had said that C.J. Wiley was from Alpharetta. He's actually from Milton. That's on me. All right, we'll be right back.
Georgia High School Sports Daily is presented by GeorgiaConstructionCareers.com. Transform your future today. And by Smart Local 85. Sheet metal is a smart move.
All right, the Georgia High School Sports Daily, every day from 12 to 1. Craig Sager to my left. Najee Wilkins is also with us. And don't forget to check us out at scoreatl.com, where you can get all the high school information. We've got a lot of cool events coming up. We have the Georgia Elite Classic coming up. We have our Honors Night, which we'll be talking a lot more about that when we present our Mr. and Mrs. Georgia, Mr. Football, and of course Mrs. Flag Football, which will be a lot of fun. We also have our Corky Kell Dave Hunter Classic basketball games at Norcross and McEachern in December. We'll talk a little bit more about that as we get closer to the event. Every day at this time, every Monday, we have Tim Scott, the new director. I'm going to stop calling him the new director. He is the director of the Georgia High School Association. Tim, how you doing? We appreciate you being with us on Saturday night, the College Football Hall of Fame. It was a lot of fun, wasn't it?
Hey, man, that was a great event. A lot of great people, great athletes. What a tradition the state has of football here in Georgia. Amazing.
Yeah, and you know, Robin Hines, of course, who was your predecessor, was there. He'll continue, hopefully, to be there every year as we sort of started that together. But Tim, he had a lot of good things to say about you. One of the things he said is he's never met anybody that can run a school like Tim Scott. So we hope you can run the GHSA like you can run a school, although I would probably say it's a little bit tougher, especially this time of year, Tim. A lot of stuff going on. Of course, we got the volleyball playoffs. We're starting to move closer to the state championships. Let's start off with softball, Tim, down in Columbus. That will start on Wednesday. You can check all the scores, brackets, and game summaries at theajc.com, which we handle for them. But Tim, this is at a Olympic venue. It's at the Columbus venue. That venue's been around quite a while. But I know that's very helpful for you guys to have that many fields in Columbus and to be able to play that many teams at one time.
Oh, absolutely. And listen, the city of Columbus treats us really, really well. We are certainly thankful to be there. We'll be setting up, and we've got crews down there tomorrow getting ready. Of course, games start on Wednesday, and we'll play a slate of games on Wednesday. Then Thursday at 11 o'clock, we'll have the opening ceremonies, and we'll march all the teams in then, and then start playing games after the opening ceremonies, and again on Friday, and then crowning our champions on Saturday. So it's going to be an exciting week.
We're talking to Tim Scott, director of the GHSA. How difficult during the middle of the day, or especially middle of the week like it is to get umpires for these games? I mean, is that something that's not easy to do?
It's not, and our umpires do a great job making a priority of being there and doing what they need to do to call games. And of course, their employers, we're thankful for their employers to allow them the time to do that as well.
Yeah, because softball officiating or umpiring is not a full-time job. Craig?
And speaking of that, Tim, I saw the volleyball state championships. Typically, it would be a Friday, Saturday situation. It looks like you guys are going Saturday, Monday this year to not interfere with football. Talk about that decision a little bit.
Yeah, well, a lot of it also has to do with when we can get Lake Point and availability and stuff there. And that venue out there is really nice. Last year was the first year we were in that venue. So we're going back this year, and it's worked out really, really well. And so we're super excited about that. Just all the championship matches in one venue.
And Tim, I know they've got some hotels, and I think they built a new hotel up there, haven't they?
Yes, sir. Quite, and it's an amazing place, and it gives it a great place for people to stay. And I have watched that place grow over the last decade. It is amazing.
Let me ask you this: when a state championship team travels like that, Tim, let's just use an example. If a Camden County from down south in volleyball has to transport the players and the coaches up to Lake Point, is that something that the GHSA helps them with financially?
Yes, sir. There are shares that we pay our teams through the championship games. And then, of course, when they travel, even when it's not a state championship venue, the other school has to pay mileage and that to the visiting team to help out with some of those costs. And it all depends on, ticket sales and that kind of stuff, because, we don't get any tax money or anything. So most of the time we can cover that, and occasionally, we might not be able to make it, but most of the time we can.
Yeah, and let's go to football, because of course this was supposed to be the final weekend of the regular season, and you push back the season a week because of the weather and allowing teams to get an extra weekend. And it was fortunate that because of the way the schedule was set, there was going to be a week off before the state championships. That's no longer the case. But Tim, how many games do you expect football to be played next week? Because I know it's not just going to be Friday. There will be a few games probably during the week as well as Saturday.
Yeah, but next weekend we're thinking probably between 50 and 60 total games. So, not a full slate like we normally have, but quite a few are having to get it in. And some of those did have to play during the week too, and still play on that last weekend to get them all in.
Tim, let's go back to this competitive balance proposal. We had you in the studio a couple of Mondays ago. You and Don Core were talking about it. Has there been any movement? I know there's some time here, but this is something that you talked about. You're going to have to do a good job of selling this thing to all the schools in the state, but just wondering if there's any type of update for that.
Well, basically what we're doing right now is I'm going to schools. I've got one planned Wednesday of this week where I'm going to a school, and that particular area is bringing in 6 or 8, 10 athletic directors for me to present to and talk about competitive balance. And when we look at the competitive balance model, our reclassification committee still has a lot of say-so in how that looks. When we talked about you move schools up or move schools down, we want to look at an entire classification and see how competitive is it? Is it really pretty competitive at the top, and maybe we don't move anybody up? And then those schools that maybe aren't doing well, we move some of those down. So that's going to, take place each time and could be different classification to classification, because the idea is to make sure we are as competitive as we can be and give young people and schools an opportunity to compete.
And Tim, just tell us real quickly, what's the timeline for this?
We would like to have something, if we could, by next year. Don't know that we'll get there because there's still a lot of conversation and questions to be answered. And we're going around speaking to people. We're going to have some trustees meetings throughout the year to, keep them up to date and just kind of see where it takes us. But it'd be nice if we could have a vote in the spring, but don't know that we'll get there.
Well, listen, Tim, we appreciate it. It was great seeing you on Saturday night at the College Hall of Fame. Have a great week, and we'll see you next Monday.
Thanks, IJ. You guys take care.
Thanks, Tim. Tim Scott, the Executive Director of the Georgia High School Association. All right, coming up, we've got Todd Holcomb. He's got a lot of cool stuff to talk about that was in his daily this morning, and we'll be right back here on the Peachtree Sports Network.
Dang, where you get this car?
You need to join the union.
The union?
Absolutely. You can get 10 of these.
Union construction workers earn the highest wages with the best benefits and the most protection in the construction industry. Find your career in construction. Go to GeorgiaConstructionCareers.com and start your future today.
A journeyman with Local 85, when you turn out, you can be hitting 6 figures.
Hey, I have your back, you have my back. We're going to do this together. We're one for all for one.
College just wasn't for me. Let's look into actual career jobs that wouldn't take college, where I wouldn't, lose money and all that. Instead of losing a lot more money at the end, why not make money and make more money at the end?
The Mechanical Trades Institute is an opportunity towards personal financial freedom through hands-on and rewarding work. Our school is completely free and gives apprentices the knowledge and skills required to gain access to a lifelong career path. Apprentices learn pipe fitting, plumbing, mechanical service, and welding. They earn money as they learn and graduate with no student debt. Start a career with the Mechanical Trades Institute and change your financial future.
What happens after you graduate? Will you go to the next level? Will people have your back in the heat of the battle? Will you still train like a champion in pursuit of greatness? You will when you become an IBEW electrician. Join our team. Visit IBEW613.org.
All right, want to welcome everybody back to the Georgia High School Sports Daily, brought to you by IBEW Local 613. I want to thank Kenny Mullins and all the guys at IBEW for the support. We'll bring on Todd Holcomb. Is Todd with us? He is. Todd Holcomb, of course, doing the newsletter, the Georgia High School Football Daily. We sort of stole that name, Todd, so we hope. I did ask for permission, so.
Yeah, it's a compliment.
It is a compliment. You can't send me a cease and desist. Of course, Todd and I worked at the AJC together for too long, didn't we, Todd? Hey, has a place changed? Wow, has newspaper changed since? I mean, when we were there, Todd, we had, I think it was almost 90 people in sports. I mean, it was an amazing staff back then, Todd.
Yeah, it was almost like the sports department itself is kind of a power unto itself. You know, it was major strength of the newspaper in its glory days in the 80s and 90s, and still do a pretty good job with sports. But I don't think any newspaper can kind of match what we had going in those days.
Yeah, it was crazy. We had Chris Mortensen and Furman Bisher and Dave Kindred, and we were surrounded by a lot of talented people. Let's get to your this week Say It Ain't So. Of course, that's Chip Say, who is your partner, who ranks the most surprising and notable games of the weekend. Todd, the first one we got to talk about is Mary Persons coming from nowhere. Not that it's too big of a surprise, because Mary Persons has been a power for a long time, but they haven't had a good season. They end up beating number one, or at least our number one ranked team, Sandy Creek. Todd.
Yeah, that's our number one ranked team as well. And yeah, I mean, Mary Persons is an interesting story because, you know, they made the quarterfinals last year. They were ranked number 5 in preseason, expecting to have a good year. They started 3-1, and then they had to forfeit 3 games because of an ineligible player. And so then all of a sudden they're 0-4. And then in region play, they lose 2 games, like on the last play of the game. They lost to Spalding and Upson Lee. And so it just ruined their season. They came in 1-7. And the coach, Brian Nelson, I think he felt just really bad because he felt responsible. Somehow maybe he could have realized that the player was not eligible. I mean, it was kind of an inadvertent thing, but it happened, and it just cost them the whole season. They can't make the playoffs. But then they have this great win that he talks about. You know, now these players have this game that they can remember forever. So even if they don't make the playoffs, and maybe that's even bigger. I think I'd rather have a huge win like this over the number one team and not make the playoffs and go out in the first or second round. So turns out to be it kind of saves their season in some small way.
Yeah, it was, and very interesting, and definitely shook up all the rankings. Number 2, Kell and Cambridge. Kell looked like wasn't going to get into the playoffs for the first time since 2007, but they come and they not only beat a good Cambridge team and handed their first loss of the season, but I mean, they handled them. I mean, the score was 28-14, but they shut them down.
Yeah, I think they held Cambridge to negative rushing yards or something close to that. And, I mean, Kell's a good team. If they had not made the playoffs, they would not have been happy, and it would have been a big underachievement. And just, I think the Westminster game, maybe that woke them up. They needed to sort of win out, and they did. And they have a running back named Mooney Gibson. He rushed for about 250 yards. They ran the ball, Cambridge didn't, and they came away with the win. And they'll probably finish second in the region. This looks like where they're slated to finish, ahead of Cambridge and ahead of Westminster.
Yeah, and it's crazy how things can change. This number 3, Say It Ain't So, it was kind of a fun one for me because I'm a big North Atlanta fan. North Atlanta 28, West Versailles 24, of course, in 91. It was the merger of North Fulton and the north side of Atlanta that made North Atlanta. But, really, Todd, we've seen over the last couple of years, we've had North Atlanta and Corky. This is a team on the rise.
Yeah, it is. I mean, beating West Versailles was not a huge upset, so it wasn't in the list for that reason. But North Atlanta, I mean, this is City of Atlanta school that's playing in the highest classification. And, and then they're going to win a region. This is the first time they've ever won a region title, I believe. They opened in 1991. And there hasn't been a City of Atlanta school to win a region title in the highest class since 2004. There haven't been a lot of Atlanta City schools in the highest class since then. But I just think that's a great accomplishment for them and Coach Jamie All, to win. You're playing with the big boys and come out with a region title. That's pretty nice.
Yeah, and good for North Atlanta, and I'm happy for the city of Atlanta. Putnam County 21, Jasper County 14. Jasper was seeking its first region title since 1992, and they ended up suffering their first loss in Region 4A Division I.
Yeah, I mean, that one was in there because that's just a crazy little region. It's small town football. It's one of the best regions when you just hometown teams playing each other. Putnam County's in there, Social Circle, Jasper County, Lamar County, all about equal. And somebody's, as soon as you think somebody's taking control of that region, Putnam had a big win the week before over Social Circle in 3 overtimes. And then they turn around and they lose to Putnam. And so the race is just in turmoil there. It's just a lot of fun, man. I mean, a lot of those smaller classes have these good region races that I think are a lot of fun for the locals down there paying attention to it.
And then our Alabama loss to Vandy this week is Southeast Whitfield beating Towns County 7-3. Southeast Whitfield was a 30-point underdog, and they had lost 15 straight games.
Yeah, those are two mountain schools, Southeast Whitfield, Towns County. They're not playing region schedules. Towns, maybe just because they're so isolated, that's far to go. And then Southeast, because they're struggling to compete. But it's always cool to see a team, break a long losing streak like that. Lost 15 in a row.
And then, Todd, the last note you guys mentioned was Marietta's big win over Cherokee. I thought that was huge, but it really isn't uncharacteristic for Marietta to maybe go into the playoffs with a sub-500 record. I mean, how significant do you think that was, and what do you think of that region overall?
Well, I mean, we talked about Marietta about a month ago, like what's wrong with them? They're losing a bunch of games and just won a state title about 4 or 5 years ago. And I said then that they're really not as bad as it looks. I mean, they're not where they want to be. When they started 1-7, well, going in that game, they were 1-7. But they're a pretty good team in just a deep region. It's not like the toughest region at the top necessarily. I mean, that's the one with North Cobb and North Cobb's.
Walton, yeah.
But I mean, Walton. But Walton's not as strong as usual. But yeah, I mean, Marietta is generally a tough out unless they're playing those elite teams, even if they're 1-7. And, they got that real good linebacker who just committed to Georgia. Or I guess he flipped from somewhere, went to Georgia. Crua is his name. And yeah, so they got some good players.
All right, let's move on to some other items, Todd. A flag football player, Katie Smith from Locust Grove, a quarterback. She had an incredible, she was 63 of 87 passing for 850 yards and 18 touchdowns and wins over Whitewater, Morrow, Luella, and Union Grove. This year, she's got 43 touchdown passes and almost right at almost 2,000 yards. She's having a great season, and as well as Locust Grove, Todd.
Well, I don't know how you throw for 43 touchdown passes in 12 games. I mean, that's Hudson Mason. That makes him puts him to shame a little bit.
We should have put her in the hall Saturday night.
Yes, there you go. Right. But yeah, I mean, and their team is 12-0, and they're kind of an up and coming team. I think they made the first round of the playoffs last year, so trying to build on that. But, just amazing. Keep in mind, that's a smaller field, and they don't play as long, in games. So that's a lot of yards, nearly 2,000 yards, 12 games.
All right, let's go to the Football Daily. Friday's trivia question. One of Friday's games was between a defending state champion and the team that won the same championship the year before. Which game was it? Craig, did you guess it right?
Yeah, Perry and
Benedictine. And then today's question, Mary Person's 37-29 victory over Sandy Creek marked the first time an unranked team has defeated a number 1 ranked opponent in region play since 2019. The 2019 number 1 team was Buford, which had its 47-game region winning streak snapped and had been 120-1 in region play since 2000, not counting 2 forfeits. What unranked region opponent defeated Buford in 2019?
That was Furman commit Isaac Ward and Clark Central.
That's exactly right. All right, well, Todd, can you tell us how everybody can sign up for your newsletter every morning?
Well, look us up online. Just do the search, Georgia High School Football Daily. We've got a website. It has a sign up to the e-newsletter up in the upper right. And you want to get the newsletter. That's better than the website because you'll get it every morning, 4 o'clock in your inbox, 4 in the morning.
Yeah, and Todd, we appreciate it. But, what's really cool, I'm looking at it right now on your website, is you can go to the standings because this is a great time to go to the Georgia High School Football Daily website and check out all the standings. They've got everything updated. You can take a look at their regular season record and their region record, as well as who they played Friday night and who they will play on this Friday night, because there's a lot of region titles. Craig, we appreciate you. Todd, we appreciate seeing you Saturday night. It was a fun event. I want to thank Todd Holcomb, who is the Hall of Fame historian and does a fabulous, fabulous job with everything. And Todd, we'll see you next Monday, okay?
Hey, thanks, Jay Craig. Take care.
Todd Holcomb of the Georgia High School Football Daily. We'll be back we'll do a nice recap on Saturday night's Hall of Fame. All right, welcome back to our final segment of Monday's Georgia High School Sports Daily, brought to you by IBEW Local 613. Craig Sager, myself. Well, behind me on the screen is the shot of the induction class from Saturday night. You can sort of see the big guy in the middle in the back. That's Leonard Pope, and he was I probably enjoyed talking to him as much as anyone. I mean, these guys are such good people. Jack Pitts, who we'll talk about in a second, from Trinity High School. But it was just a lot of fun, Craig. And it started on Friday night. Decatur did a great job of hosting us. I want to thank the Decatur Athletics Director, as well as the coach and the principal. They hosted Woodward Academy. They've got a great facility over there. It's such a cool sort of in-town, Craig, type of feel. There's us in their luxury box, everybody eating barbecue that Ashley Carey provided, did a great job. That's Kaylee and myself. That's Frank Broyles' son, who was with us. And just, we went through the interviews and just, had a great time. They announced them to the big crowd there, right there. And it was just, a lot of fun. So that's from Friday night. And I want to thank Roddy White and our executive producer out there, who did a great job. And Craig, it was just, you couldn't have asked for a better night weather-wise than that. And it's the first time I've been. Have you been over to Decatur in a while?
No, the scene was amazing. Just looking at the buildings around it, people can view the field from, I guess those are apartments. The school looks incredible. I wanted to say about Leonard Pope, though, I thought his positive attitude the entire night just how happy he was to be there. I think it's unique because you have the Georgia guys there, some Georgia Tech guys, where even a guy like Seth Ellerby, who's a hardcore Georgia Tech fan, he meets a guy like Leonard Pope, and I feel like he kind of gets won over to know that he's just a really stand-up guy. And I think that's what's important is these guys represent the state of Georgia, even if they're rivals in college. Just seeing them there together, spending time, I think even a diehard Jackets fan would be.
And I thought one of the more interesting parts of the evening was when they were interviewing Thomas Davis, of course, the great linebacker. Really, I mean, where would you rank him as far as linebackers at Georgia? I mean, there's been some great ones, obviously. He'd have to be in the top couple of slots, wouldn't he?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of just an NFL player, the longevity, I think what he did, just coming back from his knee injuries, winning comeback player of the year twice, and still having such a long career, I think it's the most impressive guy I can think of off the top of my head. I don't know anyone else that has been able to overcome injuries like that. I think he ended up having 3 knee surgeries, came back every time, just played at a high level, was a part of those incredible linebacking cores for the Panthers. We saw him play the Falcons a lot, and he's just an unbelievable player.
And another person that really enjoyed listening to is Jesse Tuggle. Jesse, about as popular as any former Atlanta Falcon, just a tremendous story. Really wasn't supposed to be much of a player out of high school. Ended up going down to Valdosta State. I think it was a non-drafted free agent for the Falcons,
right.
And ends up being one of their best linebackers ever. But right there is Matt Stewart, who is one of our MCs. By the way, the MCs did a fabulous job, I thought, how we were able to mix all of them in. Brandon Adams, Matt Stewart, DJ Jones, Sam Crenshaw. Really a cool, just a really cool night. We also, what do we have? We have South Gwinnett High School. And David Green right there is the photo. David, of course, was hung around a long time, took a tremendous amount of photos. Like I said early in the show, had some great photos of him and his family. And there he is with representatives from the South Gwinnett team. Want to thank Brian Lamar to the far right. He's on our board. He's done a great job at South Gwinnett and really turned that program around. But that was another great photo. Also, the Grange football players came. Trey Blackman, who was a great defensive player at LaGrange, did not have the opportunity to come, but the entire LaGrange football team was there, and it was really neat to see them there. We had 700 at the College Hall of Fame. I want to thank the College Hall of Fame, and Craig, it was just a really, really good atmosphere. So don't forget, you can watch a repeat encore of this presentation of the Georgia High School Sports Daily tonight at 11 o'clock. And don't forget, Friday night, got a great game, Hebron Christian, Prince Avenue. That's going to be a region championship battle. We'll see you tomorrow.
Hey, is the power off on this?
I don't know. Just take it off. Safety violation, unsafe work conditions.
In the construction trades unions, safety is our highest priority, and we train you to recognize and speak out on unsafe working conditions so that everyone arrives and goes home safely. Learn about careers in construction at GeorgiaConstructionCareers.com.
Beginning the morning you opened your eyes, we spent every waking moment preparing you for the day you'd leave our nest. Whether it's driving to practice or helping with homework, it's all prepared you for, what am I going to be when I grow up? Will you be ready?
After much thought, I've made my decision to take my talents to the IBEW Local 613.
The International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers is not simply a job, it's a career. Visit IBEW613.org to begin a new future today.
Are you interested in becoming a deputy or a jailer? The Gwinnett County Sheriff's Office is hiring and looking for individuals passionate about protecting and serving their community. If you are 18 years or older, join our team by visiting GoGCSO.com for more information. Gwinnett County, together we can make a difference.
Basic combat training is a 10-week experience that will challenge you both physically and mentally. Each phase of your training will introduce you to new soldier skills, building and advancing them along the way. You and your fellow soldiers will work as a team to accomplish each mission, overcome each obstacle, and earn the right to wear the black beret of an Army National Guard soldier.